Being independent meant that you had to have some financial stability. And to this day, what I focus on and what I try to teach young professionals, especially females and my daughters, is that financial independence is so important for a woman.
I loved writing. I won a writing competition, got to have lunch with Robert Munch.
Ooh, wow.
He was, one of the first people to tell me I was a good writer. And I was like, my favorite children's book author told me I'm a good writer. My life is set. I was like 7 years old.
That was your God wink, girl.
Exactly, yeah. But having Jamaican parents who are like, is that a job?
I think one of the big challenges that women, especially women in business, have is imposter syndrome. And you think you can't do it. And we've been conditioned to feel like we can't do it.
The person that this book is for, a person who cannot see possibility. This book is for anybody who just hasn't figured out the power of yet and hasn't figured out how to flip that lens for themselves as well.
People are saying plan A, and it's like graduate college at 21, get married by 23, have their first kid at 25, house by 26. And then it's like, plan B.
Welcome to Mama and Her, the podcast.
A space for mature mothers and women navigating the exciting journey of motherhood after 35.
I'm Kayla.
And I'm Shannon.
Your new mom friends inviting you into conversation to help you thrive in your mom era.
We celebrate all the incredible layers that make you, you. Before mom, there was and still is so much more to you.
We're here to remind our community that you are still that girl.
Welcome back to another episode of Mama and Her, the place where faith, community, and motherhood meet. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Shannon.
And today we are talking all things motherhood and unconventional career paths because, while of course the 9 to 5 in the office is wonderful and it's needed, we are going to be talking to two amazing women who also happen to be moms who have ditched or defied the traditional 9 to 5 and have been carving out their own path. And we think it's going to provide a lot of inspiration and motivation perhaps for moms out there who are also thinking of carving out their own lane as well. So before we jump in, let's just jump in. Why not, right? So our first guest or our first mom who is doing amazing things is Dimitra Davidson, who is the founder of Indeed Labs. Now, not only is she a founder of this incredible company, she is also a mom to 3 beautiful daughters, as well as an entrepreneur, and really has so many different labels or so many different titles under her umbrella. And we just want to dig right in and find out more about her journey. So welcome, Dimitra, to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. Hey. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so glad that you are here because I think this is a really great time to be able to talk about not only where you are in life right now, but how you got here. And I think that's really what we want to send home to our audience today on this particular episode. So before we jump right in on, your story and how you got to where you are now, we typically start our show off with a good, bad, and the ugly. That could be from today, that could be your week or your month. But what's a good, what's a highlight, a bad, or possibly an ugly that?
I would say a good for me. Just, you know what? I like to honor simple things. So I like to write, and I like to write poetry. That helps me just express myself. And it's a private little thing that I do for myself. I don't really share. But lately I've had a block, and I just feel like the weather's been great. People seem to be in a great mood. Maybe I've just released stuff. So I was able to write again, and that's just a little win for me.
That is beautiful.
That's a good small win for sure.
It is for me.
Yeah. What about the bad or the ugly?
The bad. Listen, I think just as a mother, as a businesswoman, I get thrown a lot of stuff. So maybe hearing my daughter cry, I think was probably one of the worst things in the past couple of days. And it, end of year, it's exams. And it just, even though my kids are adults now, that just never gets easy. That of all the things that were thrown at me, I called her back and I said, hearing you cry was the worst thing that could have happened to me today, on top of everything else. It just puts it into perspective where my priorities are. They're always with my children.
I love that. Yeah, it never changes, because I know I don't know if you guys know, when a mother hears a newborn cry, she starts producing milk, like her milk starts coming out, because that is how she will comfort her child. Like, it's, even if you hear another person's baby cry, if you're producing milk, your milk starts to come out. So like, it's just, I remember my mom used to always be like, you're always my baby. Like, I, whether I'm crying as an adult on her shoulder or as a little one, like, I know mothers just feel that pain when your child is going through anything. That is very real. Yes.
And I think it also is a good reminder because, depending on who is joining in our community, moms of all ages, right? So here you are sharing, and I can't wait to hear more about it, because your daughters are adults. They're out of the nest. You're an empty nester for all intents and purposes.
I am an empty nester.
Yeah, which I'm sure you're not. Empty does not equate to less busy, because we're going to get into that.
Definitely not. Yeah.
But yeah, even just knowing that, it doesn't matter how old you are, right? Even you mentioned your mom before we started filming. Yeah. So you're still her baby.
I'm still her baby. And I laugh because a different world. Like I grew up in a very traditional Greek upbringing where my mother's a very traditional woman, and so it's still to today she's very proud of me. I don't think she really understands a whole lot of what I do though. So when I travel to her, I'm a mom before anything else. So yeah, I mean, it's just that dynamic and just trying to keep it all together, be a great daughter, be a great mom, and sometimes we strive for greatness, but what does that even mean, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But speaking of, your mom not really knowing exactly 100% what you do, that's actually a perfect segue into our second quarter, because we're going to break down exactly what do you do, Dimitra, and like all of the many hats that you wear, and this the way you forged, this entrepreneurial path of yours, and how you started off on a more traditional road, and the way in which you've done that. So I'm excited to dive in and hear more about your story.
Thank you.
And there's the bell. So we will wrap up quarter one of Mama and Her. So we are talking all things motherhood and unconventional career paths with Dimitra of Indeed Labs. Stay with us. Welcome back to another episode of Mama and Her, where we are talking unconventional career paths and motherhood. And today we are starting things off this first half of the episode with Dimitra Davidson. So Dimitra, we kind of alluded to your mom not really knowing what exactly you do, which is kind of funny, because I feel like that's a lot of parents, especially if you don't have a very traditional, like, I'm a doctor or I'm a lawyer. Yeah. It's like, so what do you do exactly, honey? Yeah. So that's actually a perfect segue to share with our community, who is Dimitra, and talk to us about, your path and how you got to where you are now, being the founder of Indeed Labs.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, it's definitely been a winding road. I certainly didn't have a very linear career path, which is, I think, quite common for people, especially entrepreneurs. I started off with a background in finance. I realized very early on that there was a part of me that is creative as well, and I didn't want to just crunch numbers all day long, although that's super beneficial as a brand owner and as an entrepreneur to have that financial literacy. My career just took some turns. I started working at Tiffany & Company, great company. I worked in corporate sales. Prior to that, I was in finance working as a stockbroker. And then I think I picked up skills along the way and saw opportunities. And those opportunities opened up doors for me. And when I look back as a young professional, I think that I was fearless. And the one thing that you realize as you get older is that time is important, and you don't realize that when you're younger. So nowadays, maybe I will take more calculated risks. Maybe I won't go down a road without really looking into it to see how long am I going to be on that path. But when you're younger, I just went with it. And wherever I was that I was comfortable and I saw that I was doing a good job, I just continued to nurture those skills. And so they took me in certain directions. So when I worked at Tiffany & Company, I learned what it was like to really focus on a brand. And I learned the essential foundation of branding, which was so important later in my career. In finance, of course, I learned financial literacy. I learned how to read a balance sheet and an income statement. And all of those elements helped me as an entrepreneur. I met somebody who said we should start a skincare brand. I was a mom, I was young, and I had some issues with my skin. I was worried about products that I was using and were they unsafe, especially because I was nursing a young baby. And so it was through my personal need and this person going, we should start a skincare brand, that we just took the leap of faith. Like, we went for it.
And I love that. You just taking this leap of faith.
Yeah.
Was that even on your radar? You know,
Not at all on my
skincare
radar.
and a skincare line of that?
Not at all on my radar. So I had left Tiffany and Company because I knew that I didn't want the 9-to-5 corporate job anymore. I had had my third daughter. The first two, I loved it. I was a corporate mom. I loved it. I was growing my career. Everything was great. And then my third daughter came along 6 years after my second daughter, 8 years after my first. And my priorities had completely shifted. I had no idea. So I'd be sitting there in a boardroom listening to them, and all I could think about, like, I literally remember the moment where I was sitting there going, wait a minute, Sophia just crawled today. Like, that's what's important. And as soon as I wanted to scream at them, like, did you know my daughter just, like, this is not relevant. I thought, okay, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. And I wanted to do something for myself. But I took a little bit of time to figure it out. And I thought that I was going to be in the fashion business. I went to school to learn fashion design at one point, and then I was repping a line of jewelry from my home. I was working a lot in community, like I was doing a lot of charitable work as well, which gave me, even to this day, I love giving back. And I think that that is really what kind of fulfills me ultimately. And I think through community, just meeting people, just being out there, this opportunity arose, and I was like, let's just go for it, because I have a need. And just knowing that the needs that I had, very specific needs, weren't being addressed. Consumers like myself weren't finding things.
I agree, yeah.
And so that was how the brand started. And that was 15 years ago. After a year, my partner left, I took over, and here we are today.
Just to circle back, because I'm just curious, as a child, were you this fearless and curious and creative as a child?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was very different, I think, than especially in my immediate community, my extended family. I have a very big family. I didn't want to do what my parents kind of had set out for me.
You were
I wasn't going
rebellious.
to be married young, stay-at-home mom.
Are you a second born?
I'm a third born.
Okay.
Yeah. No disrespect,
No.
like, at all. But I was a scrappy kid. Like, my mother came home and she asked my sister if she wanted to take a job at Dairy Queen. She was old enough to work, and I wasn't. I was so young. I think I was maybe 13, like, it was really young. And I was like, I'll do it. But I was tall, and I was ambitious, and I was fearless. And my sister was like, no, I don't know what to do. And I was like, I'll do it, because I had goals. Like, I wanted to be independent. Okay. And I knew that being independent meant that you had to have some financial stability. And to this day, what I focus on and what I try to teach young professionals, especially females and my daughters, is that financial independence is so important for a woman.
It is. I was
So
definitely
important.
not taught that at all.
Yeah, it's something, well, and all of us have daughters, right? That to be able to share, like kind of Shannon said, same, I wasn't really, that wasn't something that was emphasized for me growing up. But I think now where I'm at in my life and the experiences that I've gone through, I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that how you were a mom of 3, but the first 2, you know, you were like, yes, I love it. I'm doing this corporate mom thing and I'm thriving. And then there was the third, and then it really made you reassess. I don't know what, there needs to be a title for that moment where that clicks, because that happened for me at number 1. I don't know when that happened for you, Shan, if it was one, after 1 or after 2. But I think a lot of moms have this moment where they're like, what am I doing? Wait a second.
I know Oprah calls it an aha moment.
It's an aha moment, yeah.
Then it's that aha moment of, wait, am I really where I need to be? And for me, that was me assessing and choosing to walk away from my career that I was in TV for 8 years, right? And making that leap of faith. So now when you decided to have that aha moment and you left, what made sure, let's start Indeed appealing to you?
It was not immediate. Like, I didn't leave because I was starting my own business. I like you said, I left because I was, a business sales manager, but I wanted to be called a mom. Like, I felt like I had missed out. Like, I felt like, so, and then I left. And of course, I still had my identity. I still knew enough to know that I needed to do my own thing to be a great mother. And so, but at that time, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I had so many ideas of business type of, models, and there were so many that I was pitching out, and then this came about, and I thought, well, okay, let's give it a whirl. Let's try and see what'll happen. And it was literally an overnight success. And then when my partner walked, I didn't expect to be there. Like, that was that in itself was a very pivotal moment for me in my career, because I realized at that point that I didn't have anyone to lean on. I was going to be alone, and he was a man in a really crazy competitive industry that still to this day can be dominated by males to some degree. And I was worried. I was scared as a woman in business. How am I going to do this? Huge financial investments that it wasn't my money that I had raised that I had to be responsible for. And so sometimes you don't have a choice. You just make it work. I just kept going. I put one foot in front of the other, and I told myself, and you know what? And I have to say, you're never alone. Like, I have so many advocates that remind me every day that I can do things. And without their voices, without their support, whether it's my family, my friends, my children even, it's so important to have those endorsements, because I think one of the big challenges that women, especially women in business, have is imposter syndrome. And you think you can't do it. And we've been conditioned to feel like we can't do it. We've been conditioned to feel like maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I am neglecting my children. Maybe I shouldn't be risking someone else's capital to see this through. And why can't we take those chances? Why can't we learn along the way? Because I know that a lot of the women I've met in business have a whole lot of integrity too, right? And you're not going to just risk it. And that was me. I wasn't just going to take that and go, well, I'm out. Like, I had signed up for this, and I was going to see it through.
It's very powerful.
I can sense your resiliency, like just coming out, like oozing out of you. You're a fighter. You're like, I'm not going down. And like, and I think that moment where you said you parted ways with your partner initially, and that could have been the moment where you're like, well, I guess that's it. And here you are, Indeed Labs, still thriving 15 years later. And so, what was that journey like to where you are now, and the journey of Indeed? You mentioned it's female led, it's Canadian proud, and it's built this reputation and this brand, which is hard to do in your industry, right? To still be standing after, nearly 2 decades.
Yeah. And especially in a competitive industry where people want that shelf space. People want to be the coolest next brand. Like, there's been so many times where I've questioned myself and decisions that I've had to make. And I've said this over and over again when I speak about entrepreneurship. You're going to be lonely all the time, because you're not always going to make it's not the choices that I make, because I always know that, our values, my core values are always going to be there. But, it is a balance, right? And it might not be the most popular thing all the time. It's lonely. So where does the resilience come from? I think I feel like we all have it in us. I feel like as a young kid, I've always been very tenacious. I think if you tell me I can't do something, it's just going to make me work that much harder to prove that I can.
Watch me.
I don't know if I don't want to say it's an ego. I just feel like, I said to somebody the other day, I said, that's nothing. I have way more left in me. And at this stage in my career, like, to even hear myself say that, I have way more left. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's just what you can do for yourself. Those words are not for anybody else but for yourself.
Yeah, and we don't hear that narrative a lot. No, from women or anyone. And I think that is such a powerful statement, and I love that you're sharing that. And so as a mother, as a business owner, how has being a mother changed, like, how you make decisions and how you approach business?
Definitely. I said, I can't keep my phone in here right now because my ringer is on bypass for my girls. Like, I'm going to be a mom before anything else. I will say that I think being a good role model to my children, seeing things through, having integrity, learning from community, I'm so proud to be able to go back to my girls and say, I may have not known someone's pain point because I didn't walk through their shoes or in their shoes, but I traveled the world and I met a new community of people that opened my eyes. That makes me so proud to be able to say that as a mom. That's what keeps me going. And now seeing my children as adults and seeing how they compartmentalize their values and their opinions and allowing them to, have a safe place, it's just really, I feel like it just empowers me so much. And maybe because of the business that I'm in, I'm able to connect with community. I think just being in community and understanding makes me feel like a strong mom, but I will always prioritize my kids first. But I feel like I hear them in a different way now.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm able to be a better mom because of the opportunities that I've been given through this.
Yeah.
Looking back at the timeline of it, because you were an example for your girls, and I love that you're a girl mom to not one, not two, but three, and so even that, right, showing them a bit of the game plan, if you will, like before, and I'm not sure what avenues they're in as well, but how did you juggle entrepreneurship and three daughters?
Yeah.
I'm sure, everything we've talked about, like there's no doubt that you are successful and that you're driven in no matter what you do.
Yeah.
But I know you've had to have your share of roadblocks or your share of moments where, you probably questioned a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, I will say that sort of being this makeup is not an easy, it's not an easy mom to have. So as difficult as my upbringing was with my mom, who maybe doesn't understand my world, imagine what my girls have to feel like they need to aspire to be.
Okay.
So it's been so challenging for us from that perspective. And you never want to lose sight, right? I always thought, I'm going to set a good example for my kids. I'm going to keep going and be really strong. And then when we went through some hard times, when I separated from their father and they were going through a difficult time and we went through therapy together, one of the things that I found out in therapy was that I wasn't showing my children the vulnerable side to me. I don't not show them but my nature as an empath is to always protect other people. So my nature was to not impose my stuff on people, especially people that are close to me. And that did them a disservice because they felt like they needed to be strong all the time, that they couldn't show me who they are. And so we learned a lot as we went along. Has it been easy being a mom as an entrepreneur? No, but has it been would I do anything differently? Not at all. I would probably be the person that I am. But I just want people to know that sometimes it looks really easy and it is great. And it is good to have a mom who's a role model, but even that could be taxing on children.
Of course. Yeah.
I think something that I have incorporated, and I know there's differing opinions on this. I cry in front of my daughter.
Same.
Yes, it's important.
I don't have this persona of mommy is super mom. And while I wear many, many hats and I feel like I'm constantly juggling, I'll be the first to say balls drop.
Yeah.
I drop balls. I'm not perfect. I don't always have it together. And there have been moments where, like, if whatever the case is, and I feel so overwhelmed, and I don't hide the tears. Not to say that I cry in front of her every single day and, like, I'm traumatizing this girl. I hope not.
No.
But I think there is actually value in seeing mommy, perfect, strong mommy, have these vulnerable moments where I say, baby, I'm sad. I'm really sad right now.
You're human.
It's problem solving. I learned that through therapy. It's problem solving. It's okay to show your children that you're having a bad day as long as you can sit down and go, okay, how are we going to solve this? As opposed to always pretending. I always used to say to my girls, okay, come on, dust yourself off. Let's go.
Yeah.
We can do this. And sometimes you just, like, it's a lot of pressure.
I catch myself saying, like, okay, stop it.
We got this.
Stop crying now.
Yeah.
Enough crying.
Yeah.
And I have to catch myself and remind myself and say, it's okay if you want to cry or keep crying. Like giving her that space. Because that's not how I was raised.
No, exactly, and that's not the way that I was raised either. And maybe it's not my nature. Like it could be difficult to see somebody going through a hard time and going, okay, but I'm gonna solve this problem. People don't always have the answers, and I don't have the answers. I just have a hard time asking for help. So it looks like I'm always making things work. And I do ultimately, because we do, right? That's what you do. You're your mom. You have to keep things going.
Yeah. It's beautiful to see how you're your beautiful girls have taught you something about yourself. And we bring that up a lot about our children are a reflection of us, and they also are one of our greatest teachers. So
Of course.
So I want to talk about some, wins and losses, if you will, because you mentioned you've been doing this now for 15 years, right? And we're just talking Indeed, like your career span's even longer.
Yeah.
So, but let's focus on right now. And you mentioned the fact that it is such a saturated market, and yet Indeed has been able to stay afloat, and more than that, but thrive as well too. So what are some takeaways for perhaps a mom who is listening, who has that idea or has that that vision of wanting to take the leap of faith, but is scared and isn't quite sure?
I think that definitely one of the things that has kept our brand relevant, we've won 60 awards in the industry, is for me, it's always been about a point of difference. I think that if you're going to take a chance, then you should know what your opportunities are. I'm a very organized thinker. So anything you do, I think it's important to really understand. And don't hold, you don't want to overanalyze either, right? So don't hold yourself back, because we all have good ideas, but we're too afraid to take the leap. At some point, you have to take the leap, but organization is very key. Knowing what your risk is so important. How much are you willing to go, okay, like I risked that, but that was worth it. I learned from that. So those are some of the things, challenges that I always, and I have to look at that in my business every single day. There's decisions that have to be made every single day, and it's those calculated risks. So as a mom, if you don't take the chance, you're at some point you're gonna go, why didn't I do that? But it's never too late. That's the other thing. It's never too late. Like, I still have ideas of, what I want to do after Indeed Labs. So it's never too late. But community is important. Having guidance is important. Knowing the implications is important. And then at some point, just take a chance. But know if it doesn't work, what's my backup plan?
And I remember my parents would always be like, you need a backup plan if you want to play in the WNBA.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, really? No, but I love that mindset. I wish I went into business and finance, like to have that, because I'm just one of those people, either I don't do it because I'm scared, or I'll just dive in head first and be like, whatever happens, happens. That's also not great. So the business financial, lens is I love that you said that.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, my mom introduced me to Indeed when I was in my 20s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at Shoppers.
Wow.
And she was all about natural beauty and clean. And so I remember I was always like, this is not for me, right? But I've just seen, I use the products, I love them, and then I've seen the evolution, and I just think your product is amazing, and I love the new rebranding of the new line and everything. Yeah, I just think you're very successful and very inspirational.
Well, real quick, because we just heard the ding, but if you don't mind sharing quickly with our audience, what is up in store or around the corner with Indeed?
Well, we just launched a line of skincare products actually geared to younger consumers, because as a mom myself and a business owner in this beauty industry or the skincare industry, what I always saw was that my kids were not using, they weren't washing their face. So now we've introduced younger consumers, and then we were afraid to let them use products, which makes sense because we don't know if it's safe for them. So we just launched a line of products to younger consumers that is safe and effective, and especially formulated for their skin type. And it's been doing so well, so I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. Okay. I think I'd like to expand that.
Yeah. I love that. All right. Well, that about does our second quarter. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap things up with Dimitra and hopefully, maybe get some final thoughts.
Thank you.
Stay with us. You're watching Mom and Her.
All right, so now we're at the part of our show where we ask you your final 5. No pressure. Whatever comes to mind. It's to be organic, and whatever you feel you want to say it. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Motherhood is
sacrifices.
I like that. What is the best advice about motherhood you've ever been given?
Take time for yourself.
What is the worst advice you've been given?
Oh, your baby should be crying. Don't worry about it. That's okay. Just leave the baby to cry. I think that you should never leave a baby to cry.
I agree.
I wish my mom told me.
As it relates to motherhood, my mom warned me about a lot of stuff.
That's great.
Yes, she did. My mother is very fiercely protective of family. And so, yeah. I mean, I think I wish my mom could have told me that it's not always going to be so easy. But, yeah, maybe she wanted to protect me as well.
Okay, this is your final question. What would you tell your younger self if you could?
I think I would tell my younger self, I probably would have told my younger self just to take more time making decisions. I think I made decisions very quickly as a young girl. Not bad, but sometimes, maybe I would have taken a little bit of precaution. You could have thought that one through.
Are we talking like a tattoo or no? I'm just kidding.
Well, I see myself giving my daughters a whole lot of advice. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe that was younger me going, she could have thought that one through. Yeah, I think as it relates to like a lot, just reckless decisions that you make as a young girl.
Yeah.
I think if I could
We all
have
had the
taken
thin
some time to
eyebrows.
think
in
about
there.
it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Maybe don't lead with your heart and lead with your head. How about that one? Yeah.
Preach, mom.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dimitri, we just had such a pleasure chatting with you, and we really enjoy you just sharing some of your knowledge with us, with our community as well. Our final notes as we kind of wrap up this quarter, your final message to any mom who is, on the verge or wants to take a leap.
Yeah.
What would it be?
Well, I think given the fact that it took me so long to think about what advice I would have given myself as a younger girl, that just really tells me a lot about the individual that I was and that risk taker. And so I think that if you have a feeling, then don't question that feeling. I think that what we do is hold ourselves back quite a bit, and then we let other people come in. And then that feeling is gone, right? So what I have learned, and I think it's important if you're starting out a business or taking a chance, listen to your own gut instinct. Because if you make a wrong move, that's a decision that you've made, that you've learned from, and you can live by. But if someone else made a decision for you and you didn't do what you wanted to do, that's called resentment.
You came to preach today.
It's just true. I've learned, don't let other people, if you have that strong feeling, don't let anyone take that away from you. Because any mistake is just a learning, right? And you can say, well, that's fine. I fell, but at least I learned from it.
Exactly.
At least I took a chance. But if somebody else takes your life and your dreams and your goals away from you, that's resentment. You're going to look back and go, why did I let that person tell me what to do?
Resentment. Yep.
That is so good.
Wow, powerful.
Where can folks follow you along for your journey, as well as all things Indeed Labs?
I'm on Instagram, Dimitra Davidson, and also Indeed Labs. Thank you guys for
Wonderful.
having me.
Thank you for
coming.
joining us. Love it. Loved your insight as well. And yeah, this is just the first half of this episode. So we're talking unconventional paths. And coming up in the second half, we are going to be talking with Miss Bee Quammie about her amazing book and her unconventional path to the career path she has forged as well. So stay with us. You're watching Mama and Her. Welcome back to the second half of Mama and Her. Today's episode, we are talking motherhood and unconventional career paths. Had a great first half with Dimitra of Indeed Labs. And now we have the amazing Bee Quammie joining us for the second half of this episode, who is the new author of this brand new book right here, The Book of Possibilities. Bee is a media personality, blogger, writer, podcaster herself, and wears so many hats, as well as the most important title of mom. So welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Mom and Her.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
me. I'm so
saying
excited to be here with you guys. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
We are honored for you to be here too, because as we mentioned, right, we're talking about unconventional paths. And I would say you're probably someone who could be like, that would be me.
I get it. Exactly. I have a story or two.
or five.
When's the next book coming out? Before we start, though, we want to do a vibe check.
Alrighty.
Something we always do here on Mom and Her. So, can you share the good, the bad, or ugly with us?
Ooh. Just of like life in general
Life
right now,
or
in the moment.
anything.
Whatever you want. Day, week, year.
So the good is definitely the book being out in the world. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. Like, it's been a Google Doc for so long. So to see it in an actual book format that people are holding is so good. So that is beautiful. The bad is, and it's not really bad, but it's
okay.
It's a thing that I'm learning, is just, I thought my job when I was writing the book was just to write the book. And now I'm learning as an author who is promoting the book and getting it out in front of people, there is so much more work to do. So now I'm kind of going back to my schedule, like, oh, wait, I got to squeeze in time to do this and make time to do that. So bad for my schedule, bad for like how I thought things were going to run the next few months, but I'm sure it's going to also end up good. And the ugly,
You don't have to do ugly, because bad and ugly can go together. But if you
This
want
is
to add
true.
ugly, go ahead.
My schedule's kind of ugly. My schedule's kind of ugly, but my schedule's like, girl, what are we doing? But I'm like, don't worry, it's all gonna make sense. It's all gonna make sense. So that's the vibe. That's the vibe right now.
Yeah. Okay, well, we just want to dive right in. I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about, but let's kind of start at the beginning, and obviously what our podcast is all about, which is motherhood, and the way in which you balance how you show up as a mom, and just tell us a little bit more for the viewers who may not know. Sometimes I have to forget because I feel like I know you well,
Exactly.
and I've seen your growth, and I've seen your all of the things you're doing, these amazing things. But for those who may not know,
for sure,
tell us who Bee is.
So I am, as you said in my intro, I do a bunch of different things. Very Jamaican. That is a very Jamaican trait, to have a bunch of different jobs, and I take that on and I wear those hats very well. But I am a mom of 2 young girls. They are 10 and 7 right now. And I've had a really interesting trajectory in terms of just how I've integrated all of these different aspects into life, because I always wanted to be a writer. As a kid, I loved writing. I won a writing competition, got to have lunch with Robert Munch.
Ooh, wow.
He was, one of the first people to tell me I was a good writer. And I was like, my favorite children's book author told me I'm a good writer. My life is set. I was like 7 years old.
That was your God wink, girl.
Exactly, yeah. And I was like, listen, this is it, right? But having Jamaican parents who are like, is that a job? Like, you need to get a job. You need to have security. I was like, okay, health is my other love. So that's what I followed through university and into like the kind of first half of my career working in healthcare. Got married, had my 2 girls, was doing like writing and stuff on the side. I was like, that's my side hustle. That's cute, but I got to keep this secure job. And then so many things changed. And I was working at a job where it was a contract position. I was trying to hide my second pregnancy because I wanted to make it a permanent position. And I didn't want the pregnancy and maternity leave to skew that. So I tried to hide the pregnancy so that I could get that permanent position, which didn't work anyway because they decided not to make it a permanent position. So then I jumped right into full-time freelance writing. And after having my second daughter, and shortly after that, my marriage ended. And I found myself as I say single in terms of not partnered, but we do co-parent, but a single mom with 2 young girls who had been building this freelance writing career and was like, what do I do now? And I've taken these various different steps to just try to figure it out, while kind of bringing them along with me for the journey as well. And now we're here at a point where like, I'm talking about my book on your podcast.
Yeah, you are.
And it's like, wow, 5 years ago, not even 5, 3 years ago, I probably wouldn't have even seen this for me. So
I can't help but remember. So I think we met. We've been social media friends for some time,
sure. Yeah.
but we met. I remember about, I'd say almost 2 years ago. It was at that dinner, and I remember you saying to me, "I have this book idea."
Right.
So for this to be happening right now
it's
is
surreal.
pretty darn
Yeah,
cool.
it is.
And it's so great. But you mentioned like all of the many Jamaican hats that you wear.
Exactly.
How did you, or how do you balance?
So I don't say balance. I've let go of the word balance
Truth.
a long time ago, because balance brought about a lot of stress for me of trying
Juggle?
to figure it out. Juggle or integrate. I like integrate.
Ooh, I like that word.
I like integrate because it's kind of a blending of things. There's no, like, I realize very quickly that it's not just, okay, between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. I'm this, and then from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'm that. And it's not like that. Everything is mixing together. All of these different things that I do, motherhood, like I will be in the zone writing and working on maybe my draft of my book and prepping for a radio show that I'm doing. And then the school calls and says, your kid is sick, you've got to come. There's no balance there, right? It's just integrating, how do I manage all of these things? And another thing that has really helped has been this idea of the rubber ball and glass ball theory, if people know about that, right? It's like certain things are rubber balls. If you drop it, it'll bounce around. It's okay. Nothing is going to go wrong. You can pick it up later. Others are glass balls where if you let it fall, it shatters. And as much as like motherhood is the priority, sometimes my kids can be that rubber ball. If I need to get something done and I'm on a deadline, I can put them in front of the TV, put their little favorite show on, give them some fruit snacks, give them a juice box, and be like, give mommy 30 minutes, watch one episode and I'll be back.
That's
right?
the unfiltered truth about motherhood, where yes, sometimes the kids are the rubber balls.
And that's
because a lot of times as moms we want to be like, our kids are our world and they are our glass balls.
And they're the glass ball and you can't let anything shatter. If you do that, you're the one that's going to shatter, because there's no way you can carry all of that and do everything well. So sometimes they are the rubber ball, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They're not the rubber, like I'm not neglecting them,
no,
right?
Of course not.
And I think as mothers, sometimes we have to give ourselves that room and give ourselves that permission to realize like they will be okay if an opportunity comes up and maybe I need to see if grandma can keep them for the weekend so I can do this thing. They'll be okay if, I let them watch 2 episodes of a show while I finish, make a deadline of a draft that I'm working on. It's okay. They're all part of the journey, and we're bringing them along with us, and they have to also see that side of us as well, right? So I think it's really important.
Yeah, and you're creating a resiliency in your children and flexibility and patience.
They're important lessons.
Yeah, it's a gift for them.
Exactly.
So I agree. I totally agree.
There's this trend happening right now on social media where people are saying plan A, and it's like graduate college at 21, get married by 23, have their first kid at 25, house by 26. And then it's like, plan B. So what is B's plan B?
Woo. You know what's so funny is I never really jump on social media trends, but I jumped on that one. Okay. I actually really, really like that. And I shared it for myself just to kind of have that moment of recognition of like, it's okay when life changes. It's okay when plans change. So for me, the plan B was like, okay, you're divorced. You're outside. You see, I mean, outside is not, you want to talk about the ugly. Sometimes the outside is the ugly, right? When you are divorced and trying to be in the dating pool. But
that should be a whole nother
that's a whole other episode for sure, for sure. But, it's seeing the new opportunities and the new possibilities in this life and having the room to kind of just shape it the way I want it to look to the best of my ability. So the plan B is just being out here and just being the best version of myself in all ways, creatively, physically. I'm in the gym, I'm doing Pilates, with motherhood, all of that, just finding the best ways to kind of pour into myself and make plan B something that is like a new foundation for me, because things might change and you might have to go to plan C, right? It doesn't just stop at plan B.
No.
So I'm trying to make plan B not like the consolation prize to losing out on plan A. It's a new foundation to build from. You didn't lose anything. If plan A fell apart, you didn't lose. You're just building a new foundation. It's not your consolation prize.
Yeah.
As someone who's rewriting her plan B, myself as well, I can 1000% agree with that. And 100%. I love how you said it's not a consolation.
It's not, because your life doesn't have to just look one way. This idea, and I had those thoughts too. I remember learning about my mom and my dad, and how old were you guys when you got married, and how old were you when you had me? And then I thought, that's what I'm going to do, right? I mean, if I had my first kid at 23, I don't know what I'd be doing right now, right? I needed some time. But life it's short, but it's long. And if we tie ourselves to this idea of what our plan A is supposed to be and how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to play out, you're really locking yourself into like a prison of your own making. Even if you get the things that are your plan A, to be so rigid about it just doesn't feel like a way I want to live life. Because as much as we will try to control what we can, other factors play a role in how your life goes, right? And you have to allow room for that as well. Otherwise, you're not going to adjust well when it's time to pivot and figure out what's the next step.
I know pivot is that word that was used so much during COVID.
Oh, I know.
But I agree. It's such a
Yes.
pivot. But that's just what motherhood's about is just figuring it out, you know,
Exactly. As
a
you
bit
go.
of go with the flow. Because if you don't, it's stressful.
It's stressful. And you don't know what you don't know. Like I've said now that, you know, I've got 2 girls. My youngest is 7. So I'm like, okay, I've mastered in 2 different ways what it's like to have a 7-year-old. But like, this is the first time I'm having a 10-year-old. She's about to be 11. That's going to be my first time having an 11-year-old. You're learning as you go. And there's things in motherhood that are kind of like your base functioning, right? Of how you want to parent, how you want to mother, how you want to raise your children. But we have to look at motherhood as like a 2-way relationship as well, and realize that not only are your kids teaching you things, but they have kind of a say and a dictation in how the relationship goes.
Absolutely.
So you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes I don't know what is happening in the morning when my kids wake up. And like my 10-year-old the other day, she was talking about this school dance that's coming up. And she's like, oh, so-and-so's class got to pick the playlist. The music's going to be so clapped, fam. And I'm like, when did you start talking like this? Like, you didn't talk like this yesterday. And now all of a sudden you woke up and you're doing this. And so now I got to figure out how to mother a child who doesn't really say I love you anymore, but just calls me fam and says things are clapped. Like, exactly. So you learn as you go. You don't have a child and get like the instruction manual for the rest of your lives. No. You figure it out.
Yeah, we talked about it in previous episodes, especially as a new mom, especially when they're growing so rapidly from newborn to 1, is that when you think you have it all figured out, they're like, psych!
Exactly.
You thought.
Exactly. No. You thought. And they love to pull a thought on you. They love
to watch you struggle.
Exactly.
And we all have videos of it, right? So we can show them at their wedding or whatever.
Of course, whatever we want to do with them.
Yeah.
I want to, sort of switch gears a little bit because you mentioned all of these, the way you juggle and the way you integrate. So where does your mental health get brought up, and how do you try to care for that side of Bee?
For sure.
As a mom who has this unconventional career path and who wears all of these hats.
Yeah, that's a big question because it's something that I've done well at times and done poorly at times in terms of managing. Like as a mom, even before I had children, I've had chronic depression and anxiety. And so when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I read up a lot on like postpartum depression because I was like, all right, I'm seeing statistics that say if you already have depression, it could exacerbate in pregnancy and beyond in postpartum. So I really wanted to be on top of things. And I read a lot and I kind of knew what to look out for. And then I had my daughter and I didn't have any of those things that I read about. I didn't have any of the dissociation or me crying all the time. I didn't have that, but I knew something was off because I felt like there was nothing I was going to be able to do to be a good enough mother for this child. Like this self-loathing came in and because it didn't read like the things that I had read about postpartum depression, I just thought this is just a me issue. And it took me to like a pretty dark place where I didn't even realize I needed help, but then kind of family came in and called a little intervention. So when I had my second daughter, I worked through that with therapy and everything and got to a better place. So with my second daughter, I was like, I know what to look out for now. I know that this can, present in different ways. And I didn't feel any of the stuff I had read. I didn't feel anything I'd felt with the first one, but I felt this incredibly overwhelming anxiety. And then I learned, okay, there's not just postpartum depression. There's postpartum anxiety too. And I was like, what is this? Like, there's a lot going on. And I went back to therapy for that and got to deal with that. So mental health and mental wellness is something that I've always been aware of. I think I've just had a hard time kind of giving myself some of that grace. Like I'll think, oh, it's not as bad as other people, so I don't need to speak up. I don't need to say anything, or it doesn't look like this, so maybe it's not that. Maybe this is just me. And even coming out of the postpartum phases, just dealing with career, dealing with motherhood, dealing with separation and divorce, especially that with having 2 young girls. There were times, I did not really take care of myself, because in that moment, we were talking about the rubber ball and glass ball. When my marriage ended, everything became a glass ball except for me.
Okay.
Everything else was a glass ball that needed to be tended to. The kids, dealing with the house that we were selling, figuring out my career. How am I going to, figure out how to afford life now by myself? Everything else became a glass ball that I couldn't drop. I couldn't break. I needed to sort it out. And I was not even the rubber ball. I was like a crumpled up paper ball.
Like not even a second thought, a third, afterthought.
Exactly. I was just off to the wayside. And it, again, with friends, with family, a lot of people kind of waking me up to the fact that, like, no, you are going to lose a lot if you lose yourself.
That's so
and,
good.
Back to therapy and ongoing with that, and just finding ways to kind of take care of myself in a better way. So doing the things that bring me peace, like Pilates is a thing that became a hobby for me when writing went from a hobby to a career. Then I was like, oh wait, I need a new thing that I enjoy just doing for fun, and that became Pilates. But that and working out, now I get what people mean when they go to the gym and they're like, it's good for my mental health. At first I was like, y'all are wild. Exactly. Like, I don't understand all of that. Now I get it. And it's about prioritizing those things so that I carve out that space for myself and pour into myself to ensure that I try to keep myself as mentally healthy as possible. Because again, if I fall apart, everything else is going to fall apart. Doesn't matter how much I care for these glass balls. If I don't care for myself in the same way, none of that is going to matter.
Yeah, and it sounded like you were surrounded by your amazing community and village that recognize that, because I don't think everyone has been blessed with that. So that is just such a reminder to people who are around new mothers that they look out for certain things, and it might not be what we think, like anger, depression, but it comes out in different ways. And often as new moms, we say certain things like, "Oh, I'm okay," and you can tell.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Even if we're trying to lie or trying to just redirect someone else because you don't want the help.
We don't do it very well.
No.
We don't in those stages. We don't do it as well as we think. So yeah, I think I was very lucky to have that type of circle around me. And I think the best thing we can do, we may not be able to control the depths of the circles that we have, but we can help be part of a circle for somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
We're sort of coming to the end of this quarter. So I'm going to save my question about the book.
Yes.
And diving into that for the fourth quarter. But yeah, I think everything that you mentioned has been not only relatable, but ways in which I think moms can also integrate into their own lives. And so real quick, if you have a message for a mom who perhaps is still in that stage where she's at that healthcare job, but knows that there's a passion that lies in her that she wants to step into.
Exactly. Oh, it's going to sound cliche, but I will say go for it. Go, like, you really have to, even if you've got to take baby steps. Nobody's saying quit your job and, figure it out, but you can take baby steps to make sure that you keep that passion in your life and work towards it. So I would just say, I think we get overwhelmed when we have that thing inside of us and we don't know how to fit it into what life is supposed to look like. Just take the baby step. Just take the baby step to bring that thing in, and you'll continue to make room for it and it will continue to grow, but you have to go for it.
Love
Go
that.
for it.
Okay, that was the ding. So that was the end of our third quarter. So we are going to take a quick break. And as we wrap up, we will also dive into the Book of Possibilities and have Bee just sort of share her motherly wisdom as we wrap up this episode. So stay with us. You're watching Mama and Her. All right, welcome back to the fourth and final quarter of this episode where we are talking motherhood and unconventional paths, career paths. We are joined by Bee Quammie, brand new author of the Book of Possibilities. And so this is Words of Wisdom on the Road to Becoming. Talk to us about your book and just where the inspiration came from to where, you mentioned you're holding it now. It's a hard copy. It's finally here. But what was the journey like in having this idea and something in your heart and the journey to writing this?
So the journey to writing it came up, like we're talking unconventional. This was even for authors, this was a very unconventional path where I had been freelancing for a number of years, writing for newspapers, magazines, all that type of stuff. And I got an email one day from a literary agency. And it was these two agents who were asking if I had representation. They loved my work. And I thought it was a scam. So I'm Googling because I'm like, are these real people? Is this a real agency? Turned out very, very real, very amazing. Shout out to Transatlantic Literary Agency and Carolyn Ford, who's my agent. So we talked about me writing a book. And I was like, all right, I need some time to kind of like think about this and figure out what do I want to write like a whole proposal on and send out to publishers. And I was like, give me a couple months. And then, in the spring, I'll get cracking on something. And that actually didn't happen because literally maybe 2 weeks later, my agent approached me about 2 publishing houses that wanted to meet with me about writing a book. And I was like, they're coming to me? Like, I'm supposed to go to them. And she's like, hey, well, sometimes, you're on radars and people want to see if they can work with you. So I had 2 meetings and it was just the most interesting thing to kind of be courted. Like, if we were talking about sports just now, it's like, I kind of felt like it's like these 2 teams wanted me to like sign with them.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember saying to my agent, I'm like, what do I do to prepare? And she's like, you don't do anything to prepare. She's like, they want you. So she's like, you just sit back and you kind of just, listen and ask questions. And I was like, oh, they're courting me. This is interesting. So ended up going with Penguin Canada, and my editor there, Laura Dosky, she is incredible. And she said to me one day in one of our early meetings, you're such an incredible role model. And I instantly kind of like got this feeling because I don't like the title of being a role model. Mm-hmm. It just feels like there's so much responsibility, so much expectation. And I said to her, I don't really like that so much, but I like being called a possibility model. Mm-hmm. I like being a model of possibility of what it looks like to be a Black woman in these different spaces, or to be a divorced woman raising 2 young girls, or to be somebody who used to work in healthcare and is now writing. Like, I'm a possibility. I'm not the model. And she was like, I've never heard that before. So we started talking about possibility. And aside from the possibility model aspect, I kind of was looking at my life at the time, and this is around like when I had just gotten separated. And I couldn't really see any possibility for anything good beyond where I was. And so I started playing with this idea of possibility and looking at my daughters who couldn't see anything but possibility. Every day is magic for them. Every day is a possibility of something like amazing and fun and wonderful. And I was like, I need to siphon some of that energy. So I actually started writing the book to kind of gaslight myself into thinking that there was possibility in my life in big and small ways. And it's an essay collection. The essays started originally as letters to my daughters, but we shifted kind of the models and methods of writing it as we went along. But all of the essays touch on different aspects of life and where possibility may exist within them. So things like travel, obviously we think about travel and possibility of learning and experiencing new things. But I even talk about like, what name do you use? And what possibilities can you find in your name? Or if your name changes, what possibility exists there? What possibility exists when you know your worth, which is a big conversation, especially for women in different aspects of career and things. How do you have that conversation about standing by your worth? And what possibilities come from that? What possibilities come out of dating? Like, so many different things. I would often be able to see the obstacle of why something won't work out or why something will be difficult. But writing this book made me flip that on its head and say, okay, but where's the possibility for something new or different or good that could come out of this? And then the book was kind of born from that.
I love that. So organic.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
And he's just flipping the lens, you know?
That's what I had to do, because it's like, okay, I can always see the negative, but I had to force myself to be like, okay, but where is the positive, right? Where is, and not even just the positive. It's not like everything's always going to work out.
Right.
But that's why I say there's a possibility of something different. Something different is just at least not where you are in the moment. It might be good years down the line, but you at least have to get yourself to a place of, all right, this is something different that I can start building from and go from there. So yeah, I think it's important.
There's a saying that I once read where, you know, if you never envisioned your life could go one way, and if that's downwards, like, you know, it could get so dark, then surely there has to be a way that your life can go in another direction that you never thought possible in the opposite direction.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's hard to see the possibility of it going upward when you're in the valley.
Right.
But it is possible.
But it's literally there. I actually like have a short essay about that in the book where I'm like, I was at one of the lowest moments that I can recall in my life and literally started laughing because I was like, there's actually nowhere to go but from here. Like, as long as I still have a heartbeat, like, there's nowhere for this to go but up. So it's like, all right, girl, like, we're down right now, but there's not much downer we can get. So it can only go one way, right? So sometimes it's like you get in that place and you're down and you're like, I'm just going to be here. But it's like, no. You know, physics and all that kind of stuff. Things have to move. Things have to shift.
Science,
It's got to go somewhere else.
in your favor, actually.
Exactly.
What
You
goes
know
up
what?
must come down and vice versa.
That's
How much?
it.
Unless I could dig and it goes even further.
Right.
If I'm at rock bottom,
It's
where
like,
else?
you can only go up. It might, again, baby steps. It might be baby steps, but you can only go up. So you just got to kind of shift and look that way.
It's like
too.
the power of that word yet. When I heard that, it was like, I haven't found the one yet. I am not making the money I want to make yet. Or it's just always like putting that, it's a possibility word.
Exactly.
So-
There's so much possibility in that little word yet. And it's like, give yourself time and space, but just be moving towards it, right? So yeah, that's what's important.
Bee, who is this book for?
Ooh, that's a good question. When I started writing it, literally, I was just like, if my daughter's like this, I'll be happy. If this helps them, I'll be happy. So it was for them. But as I started writing more and branching out and thinking about who do I see finding this book and responding to it in a good way, definitely mothers, definitely other women, even if they don't have children. But I think I would say overall, the person that this book is for the person who cannot see possibility. So whatever stage of life you're in, if you feel that you cannot see where things might get better, or you don't have the power of yet, you just kind of have a full stop, you don't have yet at the end because you haven't gotten to that point of hopefulness. I think this book is for that person. And I didn't write it in a way where it's very prescriptive and very like, I've made it to the mountaintop and I'm going to tell you how to get here too. It's not, because I'm still figuring things out. Yeah. But the book is supposed to be like, join me on this journey as I'm talking about how I figured it out. And I'm going to ask you, reader, some questions that I want you to answer for yourself and see how you're figuring it out. And let's kind of go on this journey together. So I think ultimately, like mothers, Black women, my daughters were top of mind. But I think this book is for anybody who just hasn't figured out the power of yet and hasn't figured out how to flip that lens for themselves as well.
So good. So good. Well, it is officially out. It's been out now. So, yeah, just so amazing to see it come to life. And as we sort of wrap up this episode, we always like to ask our guests a few rapid fire questions on motherhood.
I love it.
So Shannon can go ahead and kick things off. Okay. And it could be a one-word answer. It could be a sentence, but it's just whatever comes to mind first.
All right.
Okay, so here are your final 5. All right, motherhood is...
Motherhood is an all-encompassing journey, occupation, identity, and practice.
Man.
Okay.
That was just off the top of my head.
No wonder you wrote a book. Like, what? Jeez.
Facts. Honestly. Yeah.
Thank you.
The best advice about motherhood that you've ever been given?
Best advice about motherhood that I've been given, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about remembering not to put yourself last. right? Like, if you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of these little people. So it's not selfish to take care of yourself. You need to do that so that you can be healthy and take care of them as well.
What is the worst advice?
Worst advice was always sleep when the baby's sleeping. It's like, no, like when the baby's sleeping, I got to get stuff done.
Hello.
When am I doing the laundry? When am I cooking? When am I getting something to eat for myself? I'm going to have to do that when the baby's sleeping. I'm sorry. I'm not sleeping then. So
No.
yeah, that was the worst.
I wish my mom told me.
Ooh. I wish my mom told me more about just who she was and is as a woman outside of motherhood. Yeah. We have those conversations now, but as a young girl, as a teenager, like I think it would have been really impactful to know who my mom is outside of motherhood. So I wish I would have had more of that. I wish she would have told me more of who she is outside of being my mom.
That's such a great answer, because if you think about it, one day, like Neo and Naya and Kennedy and your two girls, they just see us as mom. And it's like, we have so many other parts
So
to
true.
us
Exactly.
that they hopefully will find out about us, but some may not. I don't know.
It
right?
depends. Yeah,
Depends.
it depends. But I think kids want to know who their parents are as people. Yeah.
Okay, and our last question is, what is one thing that you would tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, your gut was always right.
That's crazy.
Because of Dimitra?
She said that. Yeah.
Really? Yeah?
Yeah.
She said the same thing.
Oh, really?
Similar.
Similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, your gut is
Your
it.
gut was like, I mean, that gut instinct that said at 7, you're going to be a writer, right? I quieted that for far too long, right? And other, red flags have come up, and it's like, it's just a circus. It's not a red flag. I'm ignoring it. No.
Bang, bang with the tantrum.
exactly. No, follow your gut. Yeah, your gut was
Wow.
never wrong.
So there's a clear message today for our audience.
I love that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's I think that overall, like, this last hour has been just an hour of motivation and hopefully inspiration for the women or anyone who's been tuning in and watching this episode. So thank you so much for stopping in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick before we go though, how can folks get their hands on the Book of Possibilities and follow your journey?
Yes, I love saying this. You can get the Book of Possibilities wherever books are sold.
Yes, you can.
You can go to the library if you don't have money. Go to the library, get it at the library. There's audiobook version, there's ebook, there's obviously the physical copy. So
Are you narrating the audiobook?
I do, and my daughters are in it too.
Gosh,
Yes.
that is so beautiful.
So the audiobook is a really cool experience. So if you're into audiobooks,
I am, yeah.
you'll like this one. And I'm the only Bee Quammie in the world to date. So Google Bee Quammie. You'll find me on socials. You'll find my website. You'll find all the ways to keep up with my shenanigans.
I love
The
it.
one and only.
The one and
Bee
only.
Quammie. Thank you so much for
Thank
dropping
you.
by.
Thank
and of
you for
course, a
having
big
me.
thank you to Dimitra for also joining us. And on behalf of Dimitra, Bee, Shan, and myself, thank you so much for watching. And again, hopefully this provides a little bit of inspiration for an unconventional path, while of course juggling the most important role of motherhood. So we will see you next time. And again, you can always follow us on all our socials at Mama and Her Podcast. See ya.